Hey guys, tonight we venture into the mysterious and serene world of the Dutch villages, constructed not upon solid ground, but on the precarious waterlogged peat and floating foundations. Imagine this: you find yourself nestled amongst these enchanting homes where life drifts slowly like a leaf on a gentle current. The world here, while still and calm, hums with an ever-present symphony of nature. The creaking of wood underfoot and the soft lapping of water against ancient pilings remind you constantly of your rather precarious perch over the marshy landscape. Would you dare to walk here knowing you're supported by mere reeds and ancient ingenuity? You probably won't survive this unscathed by a sense of awe and wonder. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me your location and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you close your eyes, you feel the gentle sway of your imaginary footsteps on woven rushes and logs. The Dutch, with their knack for mastering the natural world, built these villages centuries ago. You can almost hear the muffled discussions of historians as they debate whether the concept was inspired by necessity or sheer inventive spirit. Did the Dutch people view the rising waters as an adversary to be conquered or as an ally to be embraced? Your mind drifts to one of these villages, surrounded by tranquil canals, which appear to be cradling the wooden houses in a velvety embrace. This delicate dance with water is a testament to human adaptability. You sense wisps of ancient debates echoing through time over whether such homes were more vulnerable to the whims of nature or if they boasted an ingenious resilience of their own. In these waterborne villages, there is a rhythm to life, as unchanged as the passage of time. Each day begins with the gentle nod of a nodding fisherman, setting out in his boat, his shadow weaving poems across the water's mirror. The air is laden with the soft, earthy scent of peat, a reminder of the ground that is barely below. Breathing in this ancient air, you can imagine an eager historical fact tapping at your shoulder. The Dutch were pioneers of land reclamation, an art perfected over generations. They dredged, drained, and dammed until the land was theirs to command. But herein lies a surprise. Beneath your imaginary feet layers of once buoyant peat lie quietly decaying. Historians still debate whether this slow subsidence was foreseen by those who relied on the floating foundations. The stillness envelops you, yet never leaves you lonely. It is punctuated by the comforting sounds of life, a snippet of conversation shared on a drifting breeze, the squawk of a bird hidden among the rushes, and the muted slap of a fisherman's oar against the canal's surface. All around, life is in a gentle symphony with the water, yet a surprising fact tugs at your imagination. The very foundations that cradle these homes might, with the passage of time, gently reel them into history. As you amble through this serene world, your thoughts wander to the unusual detail of these waterlogged villages. Gray herons, standing statue, still are revered as symbols of patience, their reflections, a mirror of the residents' tranquil existence. The birds, too, seem to acknowledge the balance between the land and water, a harmony orchestrated through centuries of coexistence. Wandering further, you encounter an old-timer sitting on the steps of his floating abode, puffing thoughtfully on a briar pipe. He tips his hat in quiet greeting as his presence adds to the undeniable charm of this place. His life is a tapestry of stories, woven with the threads of waterway tales and ochre sunsets over endless horizons. You wonder if he knows the secret of time itself, his weathered face hinting at wisdom passed down through generations of marsh dwellers. You chuckle softly at the gentle sarcasm you sense in the air, the way the villagers jest about their swimming houses and their unsinkable lifestyle. They embrace their existence with humor, knowing full well that every cradle must one day tip. The laughter in their voices ripples across the water and is carried away like lily pads, floating into the misty future. And so the night unfolds, cradling you ever so gently in a world where solid ground is optional and stillness is perpetually alive with whispers of the past and mysteries of the future. As the first light of dawn stretches its gentle fingers across the sky, you find yourself snugly wrapped in the comfortable embrace of your warm bed. The air carries a moist, earthy scent, mingling with the soft lull of water against wooden beams. It's morning in the village, a serene place, cradled by flowing canals, where life moves to the rhythm of water. The wooden house sways gently beneath you, a comforting motion, akin to a cradle rocking softly in the hands of a caring parent. There's the familiar sound of ducks outside, gliding gracefully across the canal waters, their quacking an effortless melody harmonizing with the whispers of a new day. This symphony of water and nature plays every dawn, setting the tone for the tranquil life that thrives here. As you rise to greet the day, the house continues its gentle sway. Even the act of breakfast reflects this aqueous dance, with plates and cups clinking lightly in time with the small waves. You reach for a simple yet satisfying meal, something the villagers have perfected over generations. In this peaceful moment, savoring your meal, as the world gently rocks around you, you recall an intriguing piece of history. In some ancient cultures, they believed that water could carry the secrets of life itself. The quacks of the ducks occasionally rise in fervor as they plead for crumbs, a delightful reminder of how integral these feathered creatures are to village life. Ducks not only add an enchanting vibrancy to the scenery, but their presence also hints at a historical fact. Duck farming here dates back centuries, providing sustenance and companionship to those who call this village home. There's something magical about the uncertainty of the village's origins. Historians still debate whether the community sprang up around the canals naturally over time, or if the waterways were dug to provide sustenance and commerce routes for an already thriving settlement. It's a debate that stirs the imagination, much like the water stirs the reflections of the clouds above. With breakfast finished and the sun fully peeking over the horizon, you're drawn outside by the tantalizing promise of a day unfolding with the gentle surprises that only village life on the canal can offer. As you step onto the wooden path that edges the water, A cool breeze ripples through the air, carrying the sweet scent of blooming flowers and a hint of the sea beyond. Surrounded by this blissful morning aura, you can't help but appreciate the balance the villagers maintain between living structures and nature's harmonious plan. The way homes and walkways hover over the canal system reveals an architectural mastery, long refined, each beam and board placed with deliberate care. It's this harmonious coexistence that ensures both safety and sustainability, proving that sometimes the oldest wisdom fends best. On ventures like these, where daily life feels connected to the ancient currents beneath you, wonder about the lives that have graced these very pathways. Were their mornings as peaceful, their breakfasts as satisfying? Did they have the same rapport with the ducks? The histories you walk upon aren't contained within books. They are here in the air, the water, and the very ground. You find comfort in this continuity with the past, even as it ebbs like the tide against the walkways. Each step awakens the slight creak of the wood beneath, welcoming you further into another day, in the village where water and life waltz together through timeless dance. You stand atop a floating raft, your toes curling over the edge, where the world begins to sway beneath you. The air carries the scent of reeds and the soft whispers of water lapping against logs driven deep into the earth. This world is an intricate dance of balance, where entire neighborhoods seem to float like quiet boats, anchored to nothing more than whispers of land. Imagine, if you will, the persistent hands of those ancient builders who, against the odds that history has buried under layers of mud and time, crafted these incredible feats of engineering. They used logs heavy and soaked through with the wisdom of the forest to puncture the earth, a chaotic patchwork beneath your feet. These underwater scaffolds supported communities as if they were cradled in the gentle hands of nature itself. Historians still debate whether imagination or necessity drove them first into the marshy embrace of the landscape, but here you float anchored in their legacy. And oh, the surprising detail, some ancient tales suggest these waters were home to mythical creatures long forgotten. Perhaps misunderstood manatees or dolphins. Now we can only guess at what the reed beds sheltered. But your eyes squint into the glistening horizon, where reality blurs into the fabled. Life on these undulating foundations was a miracle of adaptation, much like the spider silk threads you've read about, thin and seemingly fragile, yet stronger than steel when woven with care. With the soft tides nudging at the lifeline of logs and rafts beneath you, can't help but feel like a small ancient part of something much, much larger and far more elegant than the sum of its parts. Time drifts like mist above the dawn-silvered waters, where the hues of morning light dance like the boundaries of dreams. Somewhere in the distance, a house shifts slightly, reminding you of the quiet energy, a gentle reassurance that stability is just a clever trick, a played hand in the poker game with nature itself. The raft groans softly but holds firm, a testament to the ingenuity and perseverance of the people who trusted in the balance of things floating and things embedded. Here, history is a lullaby, a droning buzz of life intertwined with water and wood, those ancient hands setting the tempo of life, humming like a remembered tune. As the light from the sinking sun dapples through the reeds, lending a golden hue to your perch on this timber island, you become aware of the subtle harmony playing out in this place. Birds call out their voices, a symphony that marks the day's close. You marvel at how such delicate chords are carried across the water, stretching thin but unbroken, just like the balance these communities have struck with the natural world. Yet, ever so lightly, sarcasm laces the thought of how this balance was a quiet battle, fought daily a duel between the comforts of solid ground and the inviting embrace of fluidity. Here, teetering on the edge of land and water, each step another playful wager, the stakes as high as belief itself, belief that homes could stand where no ground fought back. They tell delightful stories of how navigating everyday life meant meals were cooked on desultory stoves, lingering scents of stews wafting across wooden walls, no thicker than your patience. And perhaps it was just this daily dance with uncertainty that sharpened the humor of these people, threading stories as deftly as their ancestors threaded logs beneath the rise and fall of their canoe-like towns. As you lean into the comforting rhythm of waves beneath your raft, you ponder this play of careful poise and effervescent living. It's an enchanting spell cast over time, reminding you that life itself is a series of logs driven into the uncertain earth. The sun dips below the horizon, tucking the day behind the line, where water meets sky and the gentle lapping sounds the final lullaby of the night. This delicate act of stability stitched together by logs, reeds, and dreams sets a comforting stage for your drifting, sleepy thoughts. The balance, though delicate, feels eternal now. As sleep creeps in like a subtle tide, drawing out to sea, you lie back, cradled by this floating cradle of history, ready to sail into a serene, tranquil night. As you glide across the water in your little flat-bottomed boat, the gentle ripples sing softly around you, creating the perfect melody for a bedtime tale. In this village of waterways, boats have replaced roads, and the clip-clop of horse hooves is a sound completely foreign, replaced by the rhythmic swish of paddles through water. You're on your way to school rowing with practiced ease. You duck your head slightly as you pass under a low wooden bridge, feeling the cool shade momentarily chill your skin before the sun's warmth returns. Around you, a flotilla of fellow students navigates the labyrinth of canals, each with a small boat piloted by a tiny, determined captain. It's said that elsewhere, children might walk with books under their arms, treading on dusty roads. But here the gentle currents have shaped a different tradition. Historians still debate whether it was necessity or ingenuity that turned footpaths to liquid. But there's no doubt about the charm that these waterways bring. To your right, Mrs. Lemke, the village baker is maneuvering her larger vessel, with skill her tiny floating bakery piled high with fresh bread and pastries. The aroma of warm yeasty dough drifts across the water, enticing every nose it encounters. You see her steering towards a group of houses where eager customers await at their doorsteps for a daily delivery of crispy bread and the occasional sweet treat. The village itself, nestled among willow trees, that droop toward the water as if to kiss its surface, stays bustling yet remarkably serene, the air filled with the laughter of children, and the occasional call from boat to boat keeps the day lively. There's a lightness to this place, an unhurried, uncomplicated rhythm that resonates with a calming, almost meditative effect. Today your journey takes you past the old mill, its wheel lazily turning with the flow of the canal. Bits of history peek through in unexpected corners, like the ancient stone steps leading down to the water from time-worn houses that have stood watch through generations. Apparently, this mill was once the heart of the village's grain trade, though stories from the elders suggest it might have been part of a smuggling operation long ago. An amusing tidbit that's hard to verify but delightful to ponder. As your strokes carry you forward, you can't help but be amazed by how life is utterly dictated by the water surrounding you. Even as a storm brews on the distant horizon, you feel secure in this aquatic embrace. Some say these canals began as defensive moats and grew into the veins and arteries of the village. An idea that seems almost poetic. A heron poised and elegant stands nearby on one leg, eyeing the fish below with an inscrutable gaze, as though guarding the secrets of the depths. Occasionally, it silently dips its head into the water with incredible speed, reminding you that even within calmness there exists a dance of life and survival. You paddle closer to the school, a quaint structure that appears to float at the edge of the water's embrace. It's surrounded by a garden, alive with color, where lessons are often held in the open air, weather permitting. A peaceful protest against the typical constrained classrooms of stone and brick. It's unlike any other. As you tie up your boat along with many others on the makeshift dock that sways with the gentle push and tug of the water, you step lightly onto the grassy strip leading to the school door. You hear the familiar chatter of friends and the welcoming chaos of a new school day beginning. In a world where roads rule, it's hard to imagine life any other way than the one your village embraces. Yet here you are, part of a floating piece of history, catching glimpses of nature and humanity intertwined in the kind of bedtime tale that makes even dreams seem a bit brighter, a bit more enchanting. Tonight, as you snuggle under the covers with the whisper of water still singing in your ears, you let that tale lull you to sleep, offering soft visions of boats, bread, and a village that floats lightly upon the water, just as your thoughts drift gently into dreams. You gaze out the window to a land where water is king. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and moss, the ground never quite dry. Every step squishes and squelches just as you imagined it would. This place is not built on land, but above it, hovering over an ever-present tide. You watch the world go by on stilts and boats, marveling at this delicate dance with nature. Once these people understood that taming the waters was not an option, so they chose to become part of the ebb and flow. You walk along winding paths, your feet ghosting over planks that create a web above the water. Homes rise above you, perched on stilts, tall and strong, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of their builders. The sound of water lapping against their bases is hypnotic, inviting you to lose yourself in its rhythm. This is a symphony of survival, composed over generations. Historians still debate whether this choice was out of necessity or sheer stubborn determination. But as you wander through this floating village, it becomes clear that they embraced and redefined their reality with grace. Each structure is a diary page of adaptation and acceptance. And you seem to hear a whisper from the past, acknowledging the wisdom to coexist with rather than conquer nature. Imagine the gardens submerged in shallow pools not forgotten, but cherished with vibrant life. You step cautiously on the boardwalks that bridge these liquid plots, feeling almost intrusive. As you observe fish dart beneath the foliage playing hide and seek among the roots. It is perplexing yet charming plants thriving in their perpetual bath. You smile knowingly as a villager passes by, fishing net slung casually over his shoulder, trailing a stream of water. This is a people skilled in stories as well as fishing, and here anecdotes float freely, much like the water beneath your feet. Gossip flows like the tide, born from shared experiences and carried on the light breeze. Such is the fabric of community life, here woven tightly with trust and tales told over the gentle lapping of waves. Do you feel that light spray at your cheek? The droplets catch the light before they fall, momentary stars between sun and sea. You pause considering how centuries ago, when Vikings sailed to greener pastures, they too shaped their world around waterborne trade. Yet here, they mastered the art of living on water itself, an ode to harmony that transcends mere survival. Suddenly you hear a child's laughter ringing in the air, sharp and sweet like the call of a songbird. Turning, you watch as the children splash and frolic amid their water, wonderland painting memories as vivid as the rainbow above. They know this place. In their very bones, the water, a friend, not a foe. You can almost taste the freedom in the salt, heavy breeze they inhale, mingled with the fresh scent of rain. Perhaps you wonder if you would have fared as well here, water weighing down your every breath. Yet you find comfort in the enveloping sense of peace, as if the very essence of this place has seeped into your soul. You might not survive against the raw might of floods, but within this embrace of nature you find calm and clarity. As the sun dips lower, the scene softens, the light mellowing to a muted gold. Shadows lengthen and dance over the water's surface, lending an ethereal quality to the scenery. You listen as a seasoned elder recounts a tale, a mischievous sprite drawn from the depths to guide these people with deft hands and a gentle heart. Every detail of this world is a tale unto itself, from the tiniest drip dropping melodically from leaf to pool to the grand currents that sweep stories onward through the ages. Here, every element is part of an intricate, vital design, a living tapestry of persistence and adaptation. Your journey takes you down a path through time where you come to understand that change is the only constant. And as the moon slowly claims the sky, you see that same path mirrored below a silvery trail, leading not to dreams, but to reflections of a world both familiar and foreign. Even now, as your eyelids grow heavy, it's easy to imagine how the tide might cradle you to sleep, rocked with gentle reassurance. The soft rustle of leaves, the whispering flow of water blend into a lullaby, one that reassures you on this gentle voyage, a lullaby spun from the fabric of a long-lived dream. And so you stand at the threshold of night ready to cross. The water hums its gentle song, enveloping your senses, drawing you into its embrace. You close your eyes, feeling the pulsing life below and above, in you and around you. For as long as there is water, there will be stories. And as you drift into slumber, you are part of this never-ending tale, intricate and serene. The air held the scent of damp wood, smoldering peat, and old tobacco. You find yourself in an ancient village steeped in mystery. It's one of those places where the cottages seem to whisper secrets, and the cobblestones have stories embedded in their cracks. You've just navigated a winding path through a moss-covered forest, and as the sun begins its slow descent, the mist rolls in, blanketing the ground in a quiet embrace. Evening is settling in, wrapping everything in an otherworldly glow. Ahead, half-submerged homes dot the landscape, their upper floors occasionally poking through the fog. Candlelight flickers from within, casting long shadows that dance across the panes. The dull thrum of an old clock tower echoes in the distance, adding a rhythmic heartbeat to the village's tranquility. You meander down narrow lanes, where pipe smoke curls around the corners, and you can almost hear the gentle hum of whispered tales floating through the air. This evening feels like it belongs to another time, a forgotten era, when homes were lit by flame and made cozy by the crackling fire within. The villagers, cloaked in heavy wool and tweed, move slowly as if savoring every moment of reprieve from the harsher, colder months. You notice an elderly couple on their porch, sharing a wooden pipe between them, their faces lit by the soft glow of candlelight. Their expressions tell stories of years gone by, of autumn harvests, and winters made warmer by shared company. One such tale you recall involves the tradition of peat cutting, an arduous but rewarding task that provided warmth and companionship. Peat, that curious accumulation of decayed vegetation, was harvested and used as fuel, and in some places it still is. The process, as historians note, was more than just a means to an end. It was a communal event, a time for laughter, for bonding over shared labor, and the sweet reward of what was lovingly called a hearth full of cheer. The lines between history and myth blur in this landscape. Historians still debate whether the origins of a particular local ghost tale come from fact or fable. The story tells of a fisherman whose boat was lost at sea, swept away by one of the tempestuous storms the area is so infamous for. On calm nights like these, some say you can still see his boat through the mist, sailing towards the horizon, always just out of reach. Another unusual detail of this place is the presence of wooden carvings nestled in unexpected nooks and crannies, looking out from behind bramble or propped silently in a corner. Each figure has its own expression, some serene, others curious, as though they too are sharing in the village's quiet communion. They are gifts left behind by a reclusive woodsman whose art imitated life in ways that were both simple and profound. You walk on, savoring the surreal serenity, grounded by the earthy scents around you. Each breath brings a subtle hint of the stories embedded in this place, the damp wood of the old cottages, the remnants of burnt peat forming a delicate layer on your tongue, the fleeting sense of old tobacco offering a nostalgic bite to the air. The history of this village is not one found in books, but rather living through its people and their long-held traditions. It thrives in the gentle cadence of evening conversations, shared over the rhythmic puff of pipes in the warmth of homes built precariously on the edge of bayou waters, half floating through life's gentle currents. Such nights are rare, a gift of time that moves languidly and lets the past linger a little longer, just like the lingering taste of smoke in the air. It's a chance to reflect on the simplicity of what once was and what still remains, a tapestry of culture woven into each brick, each cobblestone, each breath of misty air. And as the evening deepens, you find yourself lost in thought, following the trail of stories further into the night. The melody of the place wraps around you, soothing and familiar, carrying you gently towards rest. You know that somewhere in the half-submerged homes, wrapped in fog and woven with smoke dreams, entwine with the stories these lands have always told. Once a week, anticipation hangs in the air like the mist over the wetlands as the first barge is spotted in the distance. You barely see it through the pale light of dawn, just a silhouette against the rising sun, a floating island bringing with it the sweet scent of the open seas and commerce. The trader's arrival is the busiest time in the quiet village, a place where the reeds sway like dancers in the ever-present breeze, rustling secrets of times past and transactions to come. The barges glide along the waterways, their wooden hulls creaking softly as they navigate towards the docks. Traders on board bring an assortment of wares, fresh fish shimmering in silver heaps, cheese wrapped carefully in cloths, and bolts of fabric with patterns from distant shores. Each item tells its own story of travel and toil of hands that prepared it of lands it has seen. Goods are exchanged boat to boat, a lively market floating on water. Traders shout politely across the distance, voices carrying easily over the stillness. It's a dance of words and gestures, bartering a practiced art that has passed from one generation to the next. Many wear wide-brimmed hats against the sun, their laughter mingling with the occasional squawk of a reed bird protesting its disturbed peace. While fish and cheese are staple commodities, it's the bright fabrics that captivate your attention. The vibrant colors shimmer in the sunlight, reds like berries and blues, as deep as the night sky. Fabrics from faraway markets. You learn some brought from lands exotic and mysterious. These traders, hardy men and women of the waterways, seem to carry the world upon their barges, and it's enough to spark one's imagination of lands beyond the horizon. Historians still debate whether the origins of these cloths trace back to the Silk Roads of Asia, or perhaps from mysterious looms of the eastern markets. Regardless of their origin in this small village, they are treasures worth their weight in stories and dreams. You watch as a young child, unable to resist, reaches to touch the fabrics, fingers grazing the woven threads as though caressing a rainbow. And then there are the smells. Oh, the smells. The The fishy aroma mingles with the salty air, while the sharp tang of aged cheese provides an earthy counterpoint to the bouquet. You're told that one particularly pungent cheese, notorious for its smell, is revered as a great delicacy. You probably won't survive. This is how a seasoned trader humorously describes the first taste of it, though he assures you that once acquired, the taste for it persists like an unstoppable river. One surprising detail catches your eye. A bird-a-gull perhaps has made its home on one of the barge's masts, riding the slow bob of the vessel, as if it too were part of the trading enterprise. Someone tries to shoo it away, but it holds its ground. Perhaps it is the unspoken mascot of these weekly gatherings. The day progresses with goods moving steadily from hand to hand across reed-dotted channels. The air is filled with the hum of bargaining, punctuated by waves of good-natured teasing, the art of making deals as much about camaraderie as commerce. You notice that some traders have distinctive markings on their boots, symbols that remain a topic of speculation. Are they signs of allegiance, or perhaps talismans intended to ward off mishaps at sea? The truth eludes certain knowledge. As the sun climbs higher, casting golden reflections on the water, you feel a contentment in the rhythm of trade, in the cheerful haggling, and the simple truths exchanged alongside goods. Your village is but a stop on the larger map of commerce, a place that marks the journey of goods from origin to destination, leaving behind traces of stories in the woven tapestry of human interaction. The day winds down as the barges, now lighter, prepare for their return journey, leaving behind echoes of laughter and the faint scent of spices in the air. You watch as they drift away, silhouettes once more, against the setting sun, the waterway, their ancient road. This ongoing exchange week after week is not just about trade. It's a reminder of connections that span beyond the visible horizon, a melody that continues echoing softly in the reeds until the next arrival, when the cycle begins anew. With each week, you are reminded of your village's part in this grand narrative, a place that thrives not solely on the transactions made, but on the stories carried along the currents to be woven into the fabric of history time and time again. The gentle plash of water against wooden hulls accompanies this tableau as timeless as the sky above. As you slowly walk along the wooden paths above the water, you feel the gentle sway beneath your feet. Floating rafts stretch out before you like a patchwork quilt of nature, each segment carefully constructed with a blend of manure and soil. The air around you is rich with the earthy scent of growth, and the subtle breeze carries the faint sound of leaves rustling. Here on this curious raft, vegetables thrive in their aquatic cradle. You watch as clusters of lettuce bob gently in the wind, their green heads nodding in agreement with the air. The rafts drift with the slight push of the breeze, a calm oceanic dance led by the unseen currents below. Light sarcasm bubbles up as you amuse yourself with the thought that if these rafts were boats, the lettuce would certainly qualify as the crew, nodding diligently at their watery duties. Here, gardening becomes a delicate practice, almost a dance in itself. You hear the soft croon of a gardener's voice, the whispers carrying over the water's surface. Every step Every movement demands a steady balance, a gentle touch, just like the farmers who delicately plucked rice centuries ago in the paddies of Asia, carefully bent over their precious stalks. The scene reminds you of the ancient Aztec chinampas, those intriguing floating gardens that dotted the landscape of lakes around Tenochtitlan. Historians believe this man-made islands were a marvel of agricultural ingenuity, yet some still ponder over whether they served other purposes as well, perhaps as sacred spaces. But on this calm evening, such scholarly debates feel far away, whispered voices from across time. You lean down, reaching toward the rafts, feeling the rough texture of the soil beneath your fingers. There's something unexpected about soil existing here, suspended above water, rather than supported by the solid earth. Perhaps it's this peculiarity that makes it so captivating, a quiet rebellion against traditional agriculture, just like those lettuce heads that bob in defiance of the current's whimsy. Crickets begin to chirp their song, merging with the soft murmuring wind. The tranquil setting, coupled with the methodical repetition of the gardener's tasks, becomes almost mesmerically soothing. Your presence here makes you a part of this timeless tradition, a participant in the very rhythm of nature's breath. And so you stand swaying gently with the rafts, listening, feeling, and becoming one with this float of greenery anchored by history, drifting gently with the whispers of the past. The presence of others can be felt in the recycling of the air, in the small laughter that occasionally breaks the quiet. It wraps around you like a warm blanket. There's a comforting knowledge in these shared breaths of air, the sense that these days and nights have passed this way for generations. You close your eyes briefly, allowing the tranquil atmosphere to seep in, fully knowing that tomorrow the sun will rise again on this serene landscape as it has done for millennia. The floating gardens continue their soft lull, promising dreams woven with leaves and water, telling tales only the wind knows. And here, encased in this gentle embrace, you drift, a weightless raft of thought on the ocean of time. You close your eyes and feel the warm sun on your face, the kind that makes you forget your half-written to-do list and recall summer days filled with limitless freedom. Around you, children are laughing, their fingers deftly crafting small flutes from reeds found alongside the riverbank. They're young, but their hands move with the expertise that comes from generations of tradition. Each hollow reed transforms into an instrument, its voice ready to sing secrets carried by the wind. Your feet tread softly on the moss-covered rocks, cool and slippery from the morning dew. You watch as some of the older children launch their toy boats, their proud flags fluttering like tiny sails against the sky into the rushing current. The boats, carved from local woods and painted with vibrant colors, bob excitedly racing each other downstream. Today, the boats are their steeds, their pirate ships, their vessels bound for parts unknown. Nearby, a child sits with a paddle in hand, their bare feet dangling over the edge of a small wooden rowboat. The paddle dips smoothly into the water, creating ripples that disappear into the stream's gentle chaos. Here, Children learn to row with the ease of learning to walk. Rowing is a language, a dance between the boat and water, and they become fluent long before they ever grip a pencil to make their first wobbly letters. You witness a playful chase, as a stray shoe caught in the current becomes an unintended casualty of these waterside games. It jigs and swirls, then glides away helplessly. Losing a shoe here means watching it disappear, beyond reach, a small lesson in letting go, and maybe a catalyst for inventive excuses to parents later. In this world, the shoe's disappearance could so easily become lore, perhaps joining other well-worn tales of this place. There's talk among the villagers that long ago, maybe during the reign of the emperors, or perhaps when conquerors still roamed the landscapes, a particularly rare type of shoe was more revered than silk. Historians still debate whether such shoes ever existed, but local legends keep them alive, woven into the fabric of everyday life, just like the children weave their stories about escaping boats. As you find yourself further immersed in this scene, you notice something unusual. The air carries a tune, a forgotten melody played by the chill breath of the evening. It's said that in some cultures, these songs were thought to be messages from the ancients' whispers of forgotten knowledge shared through nature's own orchestra. And tonight you're the sole audience privileged with an impromptu concert under the expansive, starlit sky. One might imagine how in those far-off days, inventors and tinkerers tested their theories by observing these small marvels of childhood curiosity. Just like those toy boats, finding their course innovations and discoveries have often emerged from playful exploration. It's a comforting thought that the simplicity of child's play can mirror the grandeur of scientific inquiry, each wave carrying with it the seeds of future explorations. You let the water's song and the laughter of children wrap around you, drifting away on a peaceful tide. Time stretches in these moments, as if nature herself has drawn the day out a little longer for your benefit, allowing you this evening to taste the gifts of the past before sleep tenderly calls you back to the present. As you've walked among these tales and memories past, you remember the earthy scent of dampened ground, the texture of bark beneath fingertips, in the warmth of stories shared by the fireside. Closing your eyes, you embrace the calm and the mystery of it all, letting it lull you into that tranquil space between wakefulness and dreams, where history and imagination blur into one. As the storm clouds gather over the village, you find yourself in the midst of a vibrant hive of activity. Around you, the air is thick with the scent of the sea, and the echo of hurried steps blends with the increasing patter of raindrops. Fishermen secure their boats against docks with ropes that have withstood countless storms before. You join them, the coarse hemp biting into your palms as you pull and tie knots, ensuring the boats remain tethered. Inside the village, homes' lanterns flicker to life. Their warm glow battles the early onset of the evening gloom, creating pockets of security amidst the unease. Villagers move with practiced efficiency, retrieving their candles, lighting stoves and sealing wooden shutters. You light a lantern, its light dancing across the walls, casting shadows that leap and sway like ancient spirits. Stories rise with the storm shared by elders who gather the children near the hearth. You're drawn in as one starts recounting tales of the old sailor who once braved a storm so fierce it was said to have swallowed the stars themselves. Historians still debate whether that sailor inspired subsequent generations with his courage or merely survived by sheer luck, yet his legend persists. It's a tale you've heard before, but one that never fails to captivate. There's a certain romance in these rituals, the humility in the face of nature's power, the resilience woven into each yarn spun by the fireside. You realize that stories are not just tales, but anchors much like the ones biting into the seabed, steadfastly holding firm through the storm. Outside, the winds howl with unabated fury, but inside it feels like another world, one full of stories that keep the spirit buoyant and hearts warm. Amidst the anecdotes of heroism and mystery, an unusual sight catches your attention. A young girl, no older than 10, effortlessly playing a tune on a makeshift flute carved from a hollow twig. It's a melody at odds with the chaos outside, yet so fitting in its simplicity. In this village, nights like these become a canvas painted with resilience and camaraderie. Just like the centuries-old practice of using goat fat lanterns to guide fishermen back to shore, these customs carry remnants of the past into the uncertain present. Around you, smiles are shared, laughter erupts when the wind lets out an exasperated sigh. And on occasion, someone declares nature as a better storyteller. After all, who could compete with such sound and fury? Now the storm is at its peak. Waves crash with a primal roar that vibrates through your chest. Yet you, like the villagers around you, feel an odd calm, a kind of peace that only comes from knowing that these moments, though fierce too, shall pass. As you sit there surrounded by a tapestry of voices, an old fact drifts through the conversation. Lanterns not too dissimilar from the one you lit were used throughout history, even on the voyages of discovery across unknown waters, lighting the way for explorers in search of new worlds. It's a small reminder of human tenacity and the constant quest for adventure. Soon the intensity of the storm begins to wane. The hours spent narrating and weaving tales come to a close, as exhaustion layers over like a comforting quilt. Your eyes grow heavy, and even the most adventurous stories settle into a soothing lull, just as surely as the storm dissipates into the whisper of a breeze. The villagers' voices quieten, replaced by the rhythmic patter of rain, a gentle lullaby that guides you into a peaceful slumber. In that shared silence, the village rests, preparing yet again to greet the morning sun with tales old and new, ready to face whatever challenges the next storm might bring. As you walk through the small, charming house, you can't help but notice how the worn floorboards creak beneath your feet, the sound almost as if whispering secrets from centuries past. The walls lean gently, giving the impression that they are embracing the modest space, holding it together with a tenderness that only time can cultivate. Everything in sight is secured snugly, as if the house itself knows the winds that blow across the landscape, a careful preparation passed down through generations. Even the cradle softly swaying in the corner is bound securely, a testament to the caution born from years of experience. Inside the space is undeniably cozy, radiating warmth and comfort. The room is dotted with delightful pieces of Delftware plates and vases adorned with intricate blue designs, each telling tales of distant journeys and trades. Historians often ponder whether Delftware was solely for decoration or played a deeper role in reflecting the owner's wealth and status during the 17th century. The thick woolen curtains, likely spun from the wool of local sheep, insulate both warmth and privacy, diffusing the soft golden glow of candlelight that bathes the room in a gentle luminescence. A faint has the familiar smell of herbs and spices, mingling with the earthy scent of old wood. This olfactory tapestry hints at what's cooking, perhaps a stew, simmering gently, a comforting aroma that assures you all is well. You might even spot a bunch of dried sage and oregano hanging from the beams, remnants of summer's bounty preserved for the cold months ahead. The atmosphere evokes a subtle feeling of nostalgia, and you wonder about the lives that unfolded within these walls. Perhaps they were filled with laughter around the hearth, or stories shared during long winter nights. Did an ancestor once sit by the window, peering out thoughtfully as they stitched together the rich fabric of family history? Or maybe a child, much like yourself, has marveled at the same creaky floors before, cozying up for the night. In this quaint dwelling, you find yourself embraced by history, yet there's still a touch of mystery lurking just beneath the surface. After all, historians continue to debate over the true age of such homes, as documentation was often sparse or not considered necessary. But the age hardly matters when you're wrapped in this cocoon of warmth and comfort, each element telling you that you're exactly where you're meant to be. As your eyes wander to the cradle bound carefully in the corner, you're reminded of the families who weathered the storms of life under this very roof. You can almost hear the gentle hummed melodies that lulled children to sleep, melodies interwoven with hopes for a promising future and dreams of far-off places. And yet, despite the passage of time, this quaint home stands steadfast, a sentinel of the ages. This space breathes with life of its own, a calming rhythm that lulls you into a sense of serenity. The outside world may be cold and unpredictable, but inside you find a refuge designed to protect and nurture. It's a perfect place to lose oneself in the whisperings of the past, just as it is a sanctuary to dream about the possibilities of tomorrow. As you settle into the embrace of this place, consider the textures that surround you, perhaps the roughness of the wool that, while scratchy at times, holds warmth, like an old friend, much like life itself. You might find it akin to the relationships fashioned within these venerable walls, complex yet woven tightly with love and respect. And so, as the evening draws on, you find solace in the stories that this little house tells, its creaks and whispers, guiding you towards a peaceful slumber where dreams and history intermingle, like the vivid patterns on the Delftware vases that grace the tiny, welcoming space. The village you find yourself in is one of mystery and quiet magic. It seems to rest upon the water, as if it were a benign apparition from another world. Even the village church, with its timeless stone and wistful steeple, stands amid the shimmering expanse of water. On calm days, the church stands firmly as a beacon of serenity. However, on days when the storm clouds gather and the winds pick up, the bell tower sways gently as if participating in a laid-back dance with the elements. You make your way through the narrow winding streets, the water sometimes brushing against your feet. The sound of your footsteps mingles with the rhythm of the waves, softly lapping under the ancient wooden pews inside the church. Here, the sermons have a unique melody, interwoven with the gentle, ever-present lap of the water. You can't help but wonder if the villagers have grown to find comfort in this natural accompaniment, like a divine lullaby harmonizing with their prayers. As you listen, you learn that centuries ago, this church was built on what would have been solid and fairly unremarkable ground. However, after a series of floods that could only be described as biblical, the landscape transformed, embracing the waters almost as if returning to an older, truer form of itself. Historians still debate whether these floods were caused by some tectonic shift far below, or perhaps by the melting of a long-forgotten glacier. Every theory brings with it a hint of the fantastical, making this place even more of an enigma. As you ponder this, one surprising detail catches your attention. Hidden under a floorboard in one of the church's corners is a small, dusty notebook. In it, a series of sketches detail the changing floor plans of the church as it adapted to its watery environment. The sketches are signed by an artist named Miriam, who was the daughter of the church architect. The last few pages show a young girl's view of the world she lived in with mermaids, drawn lounging on the peaks of submerged rooftops. Could these have been just a child's whimsy? Or did Miriam know something unforeseen about the waters that surrounded her home? The church remains an anchor for the village, housing countless stories and bearing witness to countless lives, yet maintaining its otherworldly charm. You can't help but feel a part of this story, as if the waterborne lullabies set the rhythm for your thoughts as well. As you meander on, the soft hum of the water remains constant. It leads your thoughts to consider how adaptable humans are shaping lives around the whims of nature. The gentle existence of this church and its village is a testament to this resilience. In a world filled with such distractions and upheavals, the serene sway of the church's tower reminds you that stability is ever so slightly a myth, a comforting one, perhaps, yet a myth nonetheless. And yet here you are standing in a place that has embraced its fluid foundations, weaving them into the fabric of daily life. You imagine how villagers from centuries past must have told tales of this mystical place, perhaps too extraordinary to be believed in ordinary circumstances. Few places seem so at peace with both land and water, as if both worlds had chosen this spot for their gentle mingling. Further down the road, you see the lights from homes flickering like stars across the water surface, each light belonging to someone who's heard the bells chime, mixed with the lullaby of the waves. Out here, reality gently bends to the sway of the water, blending with the tales and dreams born of such a surreal environment. And still, the bell tower leans a little further with each gust, as if daring you to question the line between harmony and imbalance. The thought lingers as the evening deepens, and you find yourself accepting the sounds of water against stone of bells still echoing within, melding with your own heartbeat. Could you too float peacefully amidst such mystery? One thing is certain: the path through this village is as winding as the countless currents below, gently enveloping you in its history and tranquility, one step and one story at a time. She woke early each morning just as the first light began to stain the horizon with a soft blush. The air was crisp, cool enough to make you shiver slightly as you pulled a shawl tighter around your shoulders. The fog clung to everything, a hushed and misty veil that softened edges and blurred lines, turning each object into a gentle silhouette. In these quiet moments, you wander through the small coastal village where each day begins with age-old routines quietly relived. This morning, just like every other, you set about your tasks with calm determination. A pot is lifted onto the stove, and the fragrant steam of boiling eels fills the small kitchen space. Eels are an acquired taste, to be sure, but they're a vital staple here. In fact, folks in England during the medieval ages were quite fond of them, especially since eel pies were commonly served at grand feasts. While those eels simmer, you sit by the table, bending over nets that need your attention. Every knot, meticulously tied, is both a form of meditation and a necessity for survival. The sea is generous, but only if you come prepared with the right tools. As you patch the frayed cords, your fingers move with practiced ease, weaving together more than just the fibers, but your hopes and your past too into every stitch. As the morning stretches on, you glance up, occasionally waiting for the fog to clear. It's a gentle patience learned from years of living with the sea's temperament. The world around you shifts and changes with the tides. Your mood, just like the sea, ebbs and flows with its own rhythm. Some historians still debate whether these early seafarers were more dictated by the sea or the fate written in the stars, but for you it's clearly both. You pause, wiping your hands on a cloth and casting a knowing glance at the slowly unveiling scene outside your window. The fog begins to lift, albeit reluctantly, revealing snippets of the familiar coastline. The jut of a promontory, the skeletal outlines of boats in dock, all materialize like slowly remembered dreams. Your world is colored by these changes, adorned with the transition from shrouded mystery to vibrant reality. Along these coastal hamlets, life is intricately tied to water. Every sound is cushioned by the calming rush of waves tumbling over pebbles, the whispered secrets carried in on the wind, and the distant cry of seabirds tracing arcs in the sky. It's a soothing symphony that cradles you, enticing you to dream even when you're awake. And amidst this tranquility, you allow a single mischievous thought to wander across your mind, a cheeky reminder of the whimsical tales you've heard from sea folk about creatures of the deep, sirens, perhaps singing sailors to sleep. A light trail of sarcasm flickers in your thoughts. You wonder if that was their only way to remind humans to take leisure a bit more seriously. As the day properly unfolds, you feel a gentle satisfaction with your duties for the morning. Tending to the nets feels akin to savoring a well-loved story, one that's retold not just to amuse, but to comfort. Your surroundings might be simple, but they bear a profound complexity in the stories hidden within each grain of sand and drop of salt water. Now, as the last of the fog diminishes, the rest of the village stirs to life. The sleepy lanes start to echo with murmurings of neighbors exchanging greetings, the clattering of carts on cobblestones, and somewhere in the distance the urgent clang of a ship's bell preparing to set sail. You find a sense of wonder in how these sounds shape the world outside a world where history meanders with the same unpredictability as the ocean current. Just like how historians are entirely fascinated by the Viking expeditions that once threaded through these waters, not in search of conquest, but of horizons elusive and untamed. Time seems to stand still as you continue about the day's chores, grounded in tradition, yet ever adapting to the quixotic temperament of the sea, the weather, and the life these bring. Perhaps that's the true essence of living by the tides, moving steadily forward, yet always open to the unpredictable turns of fate. It's then that your gaze drifts to one small noticeable curiosity, a single seashell perfectly preserved, perching atop the window ledge. It's been there so long it's almost part of the decor, yet it still holds the sea's music deep inside its curled shape. If someone were to pick it up and listen closely, they could faintly hear the eternal echo of the waves, a reminder of how the sea remains the timeless heart of this ever-evolving tale. The day is poised to continue, but you're content to linger just a bit longer. After all, the tides dictate not just the direction of your fishing boat, but also the rhythm of life itself. And with every rise and fall, you find yourself more intertwined with its story. Gossip moved from boat to boat as easily as the gentle ripples that crisscross the water. The village, perched delicately upon stilts, seemed to float atop the lake, a shimmering mystery that promised the tantalizing whispers of lives woven tightly together. Here, where homes sat like small islands, gazing at their own reflections, secrets had nowhere to sink. They bobbed alongside wooden canoes and echoed across misty canals, drawn along by the same breezes that carried daylight tales and moonlit stories. In this close-knit and enchanting community, your senses come alive to the sound of clinking glasses in hidden corners, and the soft murmur of voices slipping through the gaps between bamboo walls. Boats like elongated wooden silhouettes moved silently under the starlit sky, and from each one, snatches of conversation seemed to weave a tapestry of tales, some too curious, some too tangled to fit neatly into mere fact or fiction. You find yourself gliding upon one of these slender boats. The paddles dip silently into the water, stirring its deep green depths, only for a moment before the lake lies still again. You hear an old woman, her face a map of sun-kissed lines, leaning from a neighboring boat to whisper a tale to her companion about a vase, once lost in the marshy edges of the lakeside. Some say it slipped from royal hands, its beauty a reflection of a time when kings ruled these waters. Yet historians still debate whether such a vase existed at all, or if its legend was merely conjured up by the mists that swirl mysteriously at dawn. Nearby, a young man sings a tune, an ancient lullaby that once called fish to the surface, or so the legend says. The lyrics, punctuated by the rhythmic splash of tiny waves kissing the boats, recount the story of a fish so vast it could swallow a man whole. An unusual tale indeed, one met with skeptical laughter by those who hear it. Yet somewhere in their eyes, a glint of possibility lingers. As your boat moves onward, slipping silently through the shimmering path carved by the moon's silver gaze, night cradles you in its velvet coolness. Look closely. On a windowsill perched just above the water's edge, an oil lamp flickers, casting soft golden light upon a huddled group, whose shadows weave tales of their own across the worn surfaces of a floating dock. They talk in hushed tones, perhaps, of the strange events that played out when the winds shifted one season, how strange lights like flickering will-o'-the-wisps danced upon the horizon. In the village, stories are currency traded as eagerly as the morning catch or toasty rice cakes fresh from the fire. Tales of the bizarre and the beautiful blend with the earthy smell of waterlogged wood and the sweet scents rising from market stalls. Your eyes drift to a cluster of children, their voices still high and carefree, recounting the curious incident of the milk coconuts that mysteriously turned to water overnight. While some scoff, others add it to the growing archive of mysteries kept alive by eager storytellers. Historians might one day unearth the truth buried beneath these tales. But for now, the murmur of life afloat is like a familiar lullaby. It sings you into the heart of the village, where stories wrap warmly around you, cradling you like the gentle sway of the water beneath. Listening to the entwined laughter and stories, rising from boats now settled for the night, you let the experience wash over you. The hour grows late, but the village never truly sleeps. It only shifts its tone, softening from the buzz of day to the symphony of night. Take a deep breath. Allow the serenity of the place to seep into you, mingling quietly with your dreams, as gently as the breezes set a ripple across the lake. Beneath the infinite stretch of stars, the water glistens. In response, a nod to all that has been shared, to all that is whispered into the night. So continue to float along your mind, being guided by the tales, the mystery and the calm of this floating village, knowing they will always bring you back to this timeless journey drawn upon a sheet of water. As the weather began to change, the air growing crisp and the nights drawing in, you could feel the anticipation in the village awaiting winter's arrival. It always sent a thrill down your spine, knowing that soon the world would transform. Imagine waking up to the chill of a frosty morning, the windows decorated with delicate ice patterns, and the streets bustling with extra energy. The village, usually separated by twisting, muddy paths, took on a new persona. The canals, the lifelines that wove through the town, had frozen over, transforming into smooth, glassy highways that beckoned everyone to step across them. It was time to test your balance and glide across the canals, lacing up skates that seemed to have been used by generations before you, and feeling the ice beneath your feet as you joined a lively scene of friends and neighbors. Overnight, the landscape turned into a winter wonderland, where every person had the chance to abandon their normal route, sliding past familiar sights from the perspective of a frozen river. Families and traders both took advantage of this new thoroughfare. Skating became an everyday means of transport, and if you lacked skates, a sled would do just as well. Barrels full of goods slid effortlessly along the ice, making deliveries faster than ever before. In a surprising twist, the cold brought communication closer. What was previously a sluggish, muddy journey on land now swelled with life and activity on the ice-covered artery of the town. Historians tell us that skating on canals dates back to medieval Europe, where frozen waterways became an essential route for transporting goods during the frigid months. The familiar scene was the same across many towns, with skaters gliding gracefully to the market or the baker's shop, always one deft skate stroke away from piping hot bread or a warm drink. But not every tale from this wintry transformation was straightforward. In the nearby village, there was the peculiar case of a barrel that caught everyone's attention. Rumors swirled that inside was a peculiar cargo, worthy of intrigue, perhaps even rare spices or foreign silks. It remains a point of speculation among those who gather around the fire in the long, dark evenings. Most people preferred to believe that it was filled with consignment from a faraway land, because why not? It's the kind of story that lends a touch of mystery to the already enchanting seasonal change. Still, historians debate whether these ice activities were more a necessity than a choice, considering the limitations and hardships posed by winter. While skating on a canal seems leisurely and joyous, it also posed risks, and there are echoes of stories told about people daring and bold who braved too thin ice chasing something important, or perhaps just being daring. Yet for most, it was the surety of waking to dry feet that defined winter days. Roads turned icy meant far less struggle through sludge and puddles. That peculiar satisfaction came from knowing that the new mode of icebound transportation meant footwear stayed clean and souls stayed warm. A moment of shared reprieve before the inevitable thaw would return the messy paths to their usual wet state. The gentle swoosh of skates and the laughter of people filled the air, even as the wood fires crackled in the hearths nearby. Children twirled clumsily, adults skated in tandem, and every so often the communal joy was invigorated by a talented skater who seemed to dance across the ice as though they were born to it. Come evening, the village's activities shifted indoors. Faces warmed by the glow of candles and lamps, and the stories of the day were shared over steaming cups of brewed specialties. Yet everyone knew, as you've come to realize, that the true magic of this season wasn't just in the well-practiced skating or the merry times of communal gathering. It was in the brief and delightful transformation of the world into a place where the everyday was remade into a gleaming spectacle of nature's craftsmanship. As you look around the bustling village, you're met with the sights and sounds of life in a time long before the modern conveniences we take for granted. The air is filled with the smell of smoke from the hearths, the clatter of tools, as villagers go about their day, and the chatter of people discussing the latest news. Your role here is simple yet essential, ensuring the food supply remains safe from nature's relentless incursions. Keeping food dry is a constant battle against the elements. The roofs made from thatch and reeds need regular patching to keep the rainwater from pouring in. You can almost feel the dampness creeping in as you stand beneath them, and the soggy patches that give way to leaks have to be regularly repaired. The villagers have gotten quite skilled at weaving and laying reed mats, but still the rain often finds a way through. While the weather is one enemy, another prowls in the shadows: rats. These cunning creatures have a knack for finding any weakness in defenses, scurrying through cracks and gaps with ease. Each day you set out traps baited with morsels to entice them, hoping to catch them before they can get to the precious stores. There's a certain satisfaction in outsmarting these persistent little pests, yet you know it's a never-ending task. Historians still debate whether ancient methods such as strategically placed traps were more effective, or whether it was sheer persistence that kept the rats at bay. In the storage areas, bread is kept high and dry, or at least that's the aim. Shelves are lined with sacks and baskets, always raised above the ground to prevent any dampness from creeping in. But every now and then, a loaf gets forgotten or lost behind a barrel, only to be discovered days later as a feast for mold. It's a constant cycle of vigilance, cleaning, and checking to ensure nothing is left to spoil. One surprising detail of your daily life is how resourceful everyone has become in addressing these problems. Nothing goes to waste. Every scrap of material can be used to patch a hole, plug a gap, or seal a container. Innovations sometimes come from the most unexpected places: a piece of pottery turned into a makeshift rat trap, or an old cloak repurposed to cover a basket of flour. Over time, you've become rather adept at improvisation, turning ordinary objects into ingenious solutions for your everyday challenges. Despite the subtle tensions of managing the food supplies, there is a comfortable rhythm to life here. Each day progresses with a sense of calm routine, punctuated by both the successes and setbacks that come with the territory. As the sun sets, casting a warm glow across the fields, there's a moment of peaceful reflection as you gather by the fire, the day's trials receding into the comforting crackle of the flames. While you sit there, you find yourself pondering the resilience of the people who once lived in such a world. They worked tirelessly without electricity or modern plumbing, crafting lives built on hard work, community, and the ingenuity of facing challenges like unruly weather and pesky rodents. It's a humbling thought, drawing a deeper appreciation for the obstacles you never knew they had to overcome, just to ensure a loaf of bread remained untouched by the perils of time and nature. Underneath the simple tasks lies a complexity you wouldn't immediately notice. Every moment is balanced between predictable routines and the unforeseen challenges that routinely disrupt them. Yet even when the rain starts to patter against the reeds, and you hear the scratching of tiny feet in the corners, there's an odd satisfaction in knowing this is just another day in the ongoing narrative of life, in another reality, a different era, far removed from your own, yet intimately connected through these age-old tasks. And so as shadows grow longer across the landscape, you find comfort in the familiar, repetitive duties. The experience becomes a gentle reminder of simpler times and the universal drive to protect and sustain life. As the fires die down into embers, another day's work ends, leaving you with a sense of continuity, an unbroken chain linking past and present through these small yet meaningful acts of care. The lanterns float gently in the dark like stars that have wandered too far from the sky and now seek solace in the waters below. Their gentle glow reflects over the calm surface, casting a trail of light that dances with the ripples. You find yourself nestled beneath a canopy of soft leaves in a world where every sound and every sight seems dipped in magic. You hear music soft and distant, its melody drifting between the homes like a whisper. It snakes around walls and lingers in doorways, turning stone and wood into instruments of harmony. Even in this place of celebration, joy feels muted, as if each note and laughter comes wrapped in a soft echo, meant to soothe rather than startle. Imagine for a moment stepping gently onto a small wooden boat, its edges worn smooth by time and touch. It rocks slightly beneath your weight, but there's an unspoken reassurance about it, a promise that it's carried many before you and will carry many more after. This festival of light and sound seems like a dream woven of bright threads. The tradition of lantern festivals dates back hundreds of years. Some say it began during the Han Dynasty, when the people sought to honor Buddha by lighting lanterns to symbolize enlightenment. Others believe that it commemorates a victorious battle. The lanterns lit to guide the spirits home. Historians still debate the lantern festival's true origins, but all are agreed on one thing: its beauty is undisputed. As your boat pushes off the dock, you glide past clusters of floating lanterns, each holding its tiny flame aloft against the nighttime breeze. Children scamper along the shore, their giggles blending with the music, whereas elders watch with knowing smiles, eyes glinting in the lantern's glow. You can't help but marvel at how this small village transforms into a world unto itself, its quiet yet spirited presence. A gentle reminder of the passage of time, of countless generations, celebrating in this same way. A particularly old legend suggests that placing a wish inside a lantern and letting it drift on water will carry the wish to the heavens. Perhaps that accounts for the look of hope on so many faces tonight. There are more wishes floating here than you could count in a lifetime, shimmering on the water surface like stars in a universe built of hope and dreams. As you draw nearer to the heart of the celebration, the music grows clearer. You can almost see it moving through the air, bending and curling like mist, finding its way into every corner, turning each moment into a lullaby. Not just any music, but tunes spun from ancient stories filled with the voices of those who came before and those still to come, intertwined in a dance as old as time. Somewhere in the crowd, a young couple holds hands as they launch a lantern together. The flame flickers, reflecting between their silhouetted faces like a secret promise. It's a gentle reminder love, like these lanterns, floats best when it's held lightly yet cared for deeply. Further along, a storyteller captivates a small audience with tales of the village history. His words seem to weave their own magic, carrying listeners far beyond the reaches of the physical world. While it's likely he embellishes, there's little doubt that some truth anchors each tale. One such story speaks of an unusual tradition involving a lucky black cat seen during the festival's first evening. If you happen to catch a glimpse of this elusive feline prosperity, is said to follow a peculiar piece of folklore, but charming in its way. This tradition adds an element of mystery to the gathering, sparking playful debates among onlookers each year. Even as joy flutters through the night air, painting the world in shades of reverie, there remains a gentle acknowledgement of something greater, a shared understanding amongst those present that these moments, though simple, are precious. They bind people across lifetimes, like threads woven through the tapestry of history. And as your boat slows alongside the bank, you step back onto solid ground with a sense of warmth only such a festival could instill. You turn to take one last look, and the vision lingers shadows, melding into light music, cradling laughter, each element in perfect harmony with the other. The festival unfolds around you, a gentle embrace of tradition, wrapped in a symphony of light and sound. Today and every day it will bloom at dusk its beauty, unfading its stories, waiting to be discovered anew. And as you walk away, you carry this night with you, letting its light guide you until the dawn. The path ahead leads you back through the village, past homes aglow with the lanterns flicker. You sense the lingering presence of the festivities, their soft warmth inviting reflection. Everywhere stories told and untold weave, a delicate web that connects each person to this place and each other. Underneath the quiet of the night, the river continues its serene course, while above the stars punctuate the inky sky, brilliant against the vastness. There's a calm reassurance in the steady movement of the water, a rhythm that whispers of time's endless passage and the continuity of tradition. The lanterns, each bearing its own wish and hopes, gently float away, further afield, guided more by current than by sight, but secure in their purpose. You too move forward gently into the night, your footsteps marked by the soft crumple of leaves underfoot and the distant echo of fading music, a lullaby, a reminder. Just as the lanterns seek the comfort of the heavens above, find solace in knowing that you are part of this tapestry, this living bedspread of history, light and sound. This is your world for now, a blending of past and present, where each step is yours to create, and every experience is yours to embrace. Let stillness guide you deeper into the embrace of night's gentle lull towards rest and dreams as soothing as the lantern's glow. Close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and let it all slip away, carrying you gently into the promise of new dreams come morning. As you move through the moonlit village, the sound of gentle lapping water fills your ears. It's a familiar symphony, a backdrop to the life that blossoms here. Their world revolves around this aqueous expanse, both giver and taker. The villagers are perpetually weaving and mending the barriers that keep them afloat, like diligent arachnids ensuring their webs remain intact. Without these barriers, you already know what the endgame holds a lesson etched into every villager's bones. The water always lurking ready to reclaim what was once its own. As you observe, you'll find a community that dances this delicate waltz with nature. Each morning begins with that ritual, repairing the barriers with whatever the land offers. Seaweed, mud, driftwood all woven together in a tapestry of survival. The first canals in human history, those marvels of engineering, were perhaps born from a similar necessity, ancient hands shaping nature to human will. At the heart of this village lies a curiosity, waterlogged dreams that seep through the village's collective consciousness. The villagers, particularly the thick-bearded elder you spoke with last night, claim that dreams swirl with watery figures cascading between beauty and threat. In these dreams, the water is both guardian and adversary. It reveals fish with scales, sparkling like precious gems, only to transform them into glimmering phantoms, slipping through one's fingers. There's an air of mystery to these dreams. Whether they stem from tales whispered across generations, or from the fatigue of mending the barriers, no one can definitively say. This is the stuff of bedtime lore, much like the medieval knights, whose quests spiraled into legends, bigger than truth, shaped by storytellers, long after the knight's bones turned to dust. Yet crack open the layer of dreamy myth, and you find real hazards lurking beneath. Storms that swoop down like great roaring seraphim, their wings unfurling torrents of rain. The barriers so lovingly mended become the line between life and an indigo abyss. It's as if nature herself stands poised, ready to upend these mortal remnants of humanity's defiance. Historians are still baffled by how such communities thrived, perched on the precipice of such precarious balance. How did they remain resolute, shackling nature's raw power, while crafting a world of delicate harmony atop its shoulders? Villagers, however, have little time to ponder. They pass down stories, tools, and resilience, their forms of wisdom, their library of Alexandria. Tucked inside one humble dwelling, a woman hums a lullaby, a song carried to her by the tides of her youth. In her melody you hear tales of explorers, mapping unknown waters, navigating with stars as their silent guides. Stars twinkle outside, shimmering over the water as if listening. Tonight, resting here lulled by these watery tales and their mystical pull, you understand a truth. The villagers' dreams, like the very water that governs them, blur boundaries between what is real and imagined, between despair and hope. There's a tranquility in this balance, an acceptance that sounds remarkably like wisdom. As you close your eyes, you drift floating on the surface of your dreams, gently buoyed by the same waters that hold the village aloft. Gently the boat rocks beneath you as it slips through the water, the rhythmic dip and lift of the oars creating a quiet symphony with the sounds of the night. Funerals in this town take place on the water, a tradition as old as the river itself, some say. You glance towards the coffin, shrouded in a simple, dignified cloth, leading your vessel on this silent procession. It floats with an almost ethereal grace, held aloft by the buoyancy of resting memories moving forward with purposeful ease, followed by the steady guidance of oars pushed by reverent hands. The stars watch from above, pinpricks in the velvet sky, illuminating the scene with their gentle glow as if aware of the solemnity below. The water is a mirror to the heavens, reflecting their light and the gathered assembly on its seamless surface. It is said that water holds onto memories, harboring the echoes of voices and footsteps long gone, a belief that stirs a quiet awe in your soul as you drift along. This river, after all, has seen countless farewells, each marked by a unique concoction of tears, songs, and silence. Historical accounts indicate that water burials have been practiced by various civilizations around the world, from the Vikings of the north, with their grand ship funerals, to certain indigenous communities where rivers are seen as passageways to another world. Here, this practice isn't just a spectacle, it's woven into the very fabric of life, a seamless transition from the known to the beyond. Yet despite the widespread tradition, historians still debate whether this began as a necessity due to lack of burial ground, or was purely driven by spiritual beliefs. Tonight, however, you find yourself less concerned with academic debates and more engrossed in the tranquility of this moment. The air is cool against your skin, carrying the crispness of looming autumn, whispering through the leaves that fringe the riverbanks. Occasionally, a night bird calls its melodic notes, harmonizing with the gentle splash of the oars. Just as the water holds its secrets, so too do these ceremonies. You notice the way morning dew clings to the grass, and the quiet dignity of those who stand at the water's edge, bidding farewell in their own private ways. One surprising tradition you've learned is that in some instances, families would tie tokens or favorite trinkets of the deceased to the cloth-covered coffin offerings to the river, or memories cast for eternity in the water's embrace. Your role here feels momentous, shared among the few close companions tasked with guiding this sacred journey. You recall the days of preparation, choices made with careful thought, from the cloth used to drape the coffin to the flowers selected for their scent to ease the journey. There's a curious superstition they adhere to, one where lavender is never used. It's believed to charm the spirits that may linger too close. As you lead the small flotilla, you reflect on the intimacy of such traditions, binding past and present with these timeless rituals. It makes you wonder how different cultures mark their own transitions from earth to air fire to water, each one significant in its own storytelling. They all share common threads of honor and remembrance, weaving the passage of souls into the tapestry of human existence itself. The river beneath, with its serene flow, becomes a vessel of its own, a silent storyteller sketching histories with every ripple. The boat moves on, propelled not just by your strength, but by something ineffable, a collective force of will that ensures the journey unfolds as nature intended. In this moment of profound peace, cradle the thought that you've been part of something greater than yourself, a tradition underscoring that the end isn't simply an end, but perhaps a continuation elsewhere. You watch as the coffins take their leave across the river's gentle bend, the far bank waiting where shadows swathe the land in an embrace. The silent procession drifts further from the shore, carrying along with it the tender whispers of goodbye, threading its way through the flowing current of life gone, yet enduring within the memory of water. Close your eyes. Hear the creak of timbers, the slow lapping of water, the crackle of peat fires. The village isn't gone, it's just drifting through time. The night is gentle and the air filled with the hum of history. Picture yourself stepping into a scene where the world is slower, the task of living simpler. You stand on the edge of a village, its structures sagging slightly, but resilient like their stories. Imagine the weathered wooden beams overhead creaking softly, merging with the rhythmic lull of waves, kissing the nearby shore, whispering secrets of ages past. As you walk further into the village, a sense of calm envelops you, the soft glow of fires flickering in the hearths. You're drawn to them, or maybe it's curiosity pulling you along. Walking through, you become increasingly aware of the details, the slight tang in the air of burning peat, nature's gift of warmth and light. This peculiar aroma might surprise anyone used to modern comforts, but here, it's a symbol of survival and tradition. Villagers in this timeless place greet you with gentle, knowing smiles. They wear clothes that might seem strange at first glance, rich colors and dye stuffs cherished, in times when every fabric told a tale of trade and toil. Just by looking, you wonder about the dyes, perhaps coming from distant lands. Each shade a story of a journey on ships that at times didn't seem seaworthy. Turning a corner, you find yourself facing the heart of this little community. A market of sorts where local storytellers share tales, not just of their time, but of those yet to come. You can hear one storyteller describe with animated gestures how once this village was touched by the whispers of ancient druids. They speak of rituals around the standing stones, ceremonies wrapped in layers of fog and mystery, leaving you pondering if any of it might still echo in the stones you see nearby. Historians still debate whether these tales of druids and their rituals held any factual ground, or were mere legends spun by villagers long gone. But standing here under the canopy of stars, those doubts hardly matter. What is undeniable is that every word seems alive, inviting you to imagine. Nearby, a children's game draws your attention, a curious mix of tag and shadow play, where the children dart between the cobblestone walkways, their laughter a melody under the moonlight that adds layers to the village symphony. The rules, as it happens, are as fluid as time changing with every round. Much like the village itself, always enduring, always shifting. As you meander through narrow paths, a surprising character catches your eye. A storyteller's assistant holding a curious object, a small, ornately carved wooden flute. They offer a soft tune, a whimsical melody that dances with the night air. You find it fascinating and learn that the village folk believe in its ability to guide dreams, deepening the allure of this enchanting place. Your curiosity continues to be fueled by stories and scenes that challenge modern perceptions. How these people can live so harmoniously with nature's tune. The wisdom in their ability to tell time, not by mechanical clocks, but through the dance of light and shadow. or the rise and set of celestial bodies seems profound. You pause by a gathering around a large bonfire, a nightly ritual of storytelling. Tonight, there's talk of an ancient explorer whose navigational feats were once deemed impossible. Perhaps he's real, perhaps only a product of winters spent by the hearth, turning tales into ticket-free escapades. Nevertheless, word has it this explorer once set foot in many such villages, each with its own cloak of wonders. Seamlessly, another voice adds to the narrative, revealing an unusual fact: the existence of a peculiar fish that glows just under the water's surface at night. It's not magic, they assure, but rather a natural spectacle akin to underwater fireflies. Questions about its cause are naturally met with perhaps and could be yes, leaving enough to the imagination to stir dreams themselves. You think back to earlier. The storyteller's flute may have led you here to each story, a strand in the fabric of the village's eternal tapestry. You sense how connected everything feels, how each breath of wind could be linked to the creak of a timber, or how the sounds of the waves could mimic the cadence of a crackling peat fire. This village, you find, isn't bound just by time. Each story seems to be a vessel, much like the boats you'd imagine once tethered to distant shores beyond sight, yet forever influencing the here and now with their whispered lore. There is much to see here, a journey that isn't measured in steps but in moments, absorbed slowly, almost timelessly. Just like this night, the village suspends you gently in a world that's been and might still be an invitation to look beyond the veil of everyday events. It's been a comforting journey, hasn't it? The kind where answers aren't urgent and mysteries are sweeter left unresolved. You find yourself enamored by how the past and present twine together. Hear conversations of yesterday mixing with tomorrow's promises, and suddenly you realize you've become part of its stories. As the night deepens, it encourages you to reflect on how a place like this, with its unique cadence and timeless charm, exists in every heart that's willing to listen and wonder. Yet as you walk quietly back through the village, your thoughts seem much clearer, lighter. It's almost as if you understand the gentle creak of each timber, the bubbling crackle of each peat fire, and the gentle touch of timeless waves. Here and now, you're in a safe place where dreams can drift as calmly as the village itself, through time inviting sleep to come gradually. Feel your breath synchronizing to this placid pace, your mind weaving its own tapestry of pleasant thoughts, much like the village's shared tales. Let the weight of today melt away like so much mist meeting the warming sun. Every inhale and exhale cradles you softly, and each distant echo you hear, be it the lull of waves or history's whispers, is a gentle reminder this moment is yours to cherish. Softly you allow the stories and lingering melodies to fade into the background. Like a lullaby, the village hums, its good night weaving comfort through your senses. Now, as your eyes grow heavy, let the village tuck you in with its gentle spell, whispering you into slumber and leaving you with the calm serenity of knowing you're part of a timeless, endless tale